crap for not being online, I think. My God, no. Okay. Yeah. In a quantum live stream. I am struggling here. Am I streaming? Okay, I am streaming. Good. Hello, everyone. There's one person waiting. That's cool. That's Super Jerry. So Super Jerry is like one of my main contributors. There's him, Mechanist, TNT Outburst, and so I don't really know these. Yeah, I think they can. It says waiting, but it also says I'm live. So, and he just pointed out that I'm in a quantum live stream, meaning that I'm streaming, but I'm offline. I don't know. Super Jerry, can you hear me? Can anybody hear me? Oh, it says we're not streaming. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. It says I'm live for 40 seconds. Oh, there we go. Yep, Mechanist is on there, and Super Jerry. Those are, like I said, the two main contributors. Hi, how's it going? I should probably post that we're live to the Discord. Oh. So they can only see the main screen here. For those of you guys that don't know, I've got 3 screens hooked up to this computer, which is really nice for streaming. So I just sent out a notification to about 100 people saying we're live streaming for our Friday live stream. And we got at least 3 people on. Hello, Pika. How's it going? One isn't working. There are 2 streams, one isn't working. I started our normal stream, so evidently I have to use, when I do an event, I've got to use a special key. So yeah, that's why you're seeing 2 streams there. So, cool. So, what's new since last Friday? I don't have a crazy amount of time today, but my dad is here. He is sitting over to the right of me here, watching me and giving me a weird look. So, yeah, so last Friday we wrapped up by adding the colors to these guys, so they have different unique features. So they have 3 different colors that make them up, so they look a lot cooler now. And eventually they'll be able to use that as inputs, visual inputs beyond just what you already see. We added a targeting system that I pushed up a little while ago, so let's see if any of these guys are. This guy's a Generation 1. There's no way he has a targeting system yet. This guy's Generation 5. So, he does not have a targeting system yet either. So we also started working on, I was just waiting for this to go, the species screen here, where we can see the species. So these are the species that I've got. So there's a Generation 34.
What screen are they looking at?
They are looking at this main one. So this is what they see.
Okay.
Is this little red bit over here, but they're seeing only the main one, as far as I know. If you guys,
if you can hear me, I'm a bit of a Luddite, so put up with my dumb questions.
bounding box and focal view. Yes. So what was I saying? Okay, so the species screen ideally will eventually display scores here, like a ticker, but I ran out of brain cells last night, so I was done. I also made it so swimming is an option that they've got, so they don't all automatically swim anymore. It's actually a neuron that goes on and off, so they could dive if they wanted to. Let's see, I got rid of the drop that they do if they just time out, so that way they have a little less resources, which is why we're seeing lower scores right now. So that was cool. Let's see. Yeah, well, so Peak has just said they seem very inclined to stay still. I added a penalty where if they do not move right away, then they are penalized. Now, the thing is, this guy is stuck against a wall, so chances are he moved. See, he is inclined to move, but they dig so deep and they terraform this world after a couple thousand orgs run through it that they end up with an area that's pretty hard to traverse. So I end up having to continue to move the spawn point, because the spawn areas look all like this, which is, I mean, that would be difficult for us to traverse, and we're penalizing them for digging dirt already, so they end up doing with some issues there. So I thought of a way to fix that today, but I'm not sure we're going to need it yet. But let's see if I move the spawn point, where they will go. Let's go over here. I think this is actually kind of already dug up. Hold on, I got to bring Rick with me, otherwise he's not going to spawn. Yes, we will talk about chunks today too, which Super Jerry is working on fixing right now. So right now they can see my code and everything, so I got to be careful not to hop onto client work while doing this. But I think I've got client work minimized for the moment. I don't usually do too much client work on Fridays if I can help it. So now they'll start spawning over here in Chicken World. Wow, there are a lot of chickens over here. So that should be in a minute when these orgs time out or whatever. There goes one. So this, see, now they're a little bit easier to traverse right now. As you can see, some of them do get stuck though right away. And so if they move, which this guy did move at one point, they get a score event of halves traveled, which gives them 5 points and adds, they start off with 10 seconds of life, and if they move they get a full, a time bonus, I think, of 60 seconds. So that was something I added. And as you can see, they're very active here. And we've got a high score of 834, which leads me to believe that someone's mined some wood, but I don't think they've done a whole lot of, they maybe crafted some planks, but we're not seeing a ton of it. So I'm working on some scoring stuff to ideally make it so they can, so we can reward reoccurring behavior more, because some of this stuff is just random behaviors. So why am I not getting that travel stuff? I don't know what that means, Mechanist. Pika, I'm a loyal newcomer. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Let's see. All right, so another thing, let's see, I added, I guess we'll talk about, that I plan to do a video on, is I added the ability, I'm going to find one of them that's doing stuff. I added the ability for reward prediction. So if you see right here, they've got a predict output. So this guy is just below making a prediction. So what they can do basically, and I'll do a whole video on this, is they can place little bets. Hey, am I going to get rewarded? Hey, am I going to get punished? So if this reward threshold goes over a certain point or below a certain point, if it goes above a certain point, it'll place a bet, I am going to get rewarded. And that bet will last for a certain duration. If it goes below a certain number, then it'll place a bet that I am not going to get rewarded. And we can actually use that input, which they don't actually, this guy's too young to have it, but they can use that input as an input to then dictate their behavior. Am I going to get rewarded? Yes, you know. And additionally, I made it so that it impacts their score. So if they place the bet correctly and they get rewarded, they're going to get an extra, their points will be multiplied up to 2. So they can choose how much they're betting too. They can bet a little bit or not. So if they bet that I'm going to get rewarded and they get punished, that'll actually increase the punishment as well. And so same thing vice versa. If they bet they're going to get punished and they get rewarded. So it's a way of adding a little bit of meta thought to them. It's similar to Dota's OpenAI, the way they did it, if I understand it correctly. And there's a video that I'm sure I can post somewhere where someone breaks it down. And what I need to do is take that and actually have it influence the neurons. Because, let's see if I can switch to observer mode without getting kicked out here. So check this out, Dad. I can switch to observer mode and it'll follow them around a bit. And sometimes it'll draw their area of view, but there's a bug in it where the area of view runs away somehow, and I don't know how. But Super Jerry is at some point going to help me figure out that one, I think. But if you look in the screen in the upper right-hand corner, it displays their outputs, and so I can make these all just, it only selects the highest one and use that to decide and backward propagate if they made the right decision there in some capacity. So right now you can see they're like, I didn't do that. I made it so they can fire off all their outputs because I wanted them to be able to walk forward and sideways at the same time. But I don't want them to be able to place a block at the same time they craft something. I don't want them to place a block at the same time they're attacking. So that's where we, there's an additional level of complexity there, but that's how we're going to start to backward propagate in the future, attempting to mimic the Dota OpenAI model. I'm going to take some questions now. Ah, there goes the blue box. See that? It's supposed to be directly around them. That's the area of focus. And we've tested a bunch. I guess I could show you the area of focus. Actually, I already got this. Observe. I'm stuck in someone's head. Oh, that's me. All right. Come on. All right. So, oh God. I'm trying to catch one of these guys, but they're so active because we penalized them so heavily for. I can see his area of focus, so to say. I'm going to find one of these guys that's stuck, so he's not running around so much. It's all types of. Well, actually, I mean, I could show you guys. Mechanist ran a nice test for this, so Mechanist, shout out again. You guys get shout outs all the time. Actually, let's see if I can find it. He did ran a great experiment, which I wish I would have thought of. In hindsight, it's super simple to prove that the vision was working in general. That's why I can't see it. You guys can't see this, but I'm scrolling in a different window trying to find this. He did a really nice screenshot of it. Wow, we are really active in the chat. I forget how active we are sometimes. There's just tons of stuff. So I do appreciate the activity. There we go. This is what I'm looking for. So right there you can see, Dad, can you see this one? Mm-hmm. So you can see right there, that's like a debug of their area of focus. So we're fairly confident that it's correct. Actually, from this it almost looks like it's at an upward angle there, which is interesting, if that's his feet. So, but good experiment mechanists to see. So that's what they can actually detect, what's right around them. So it's, and they base neurons off of it. So, lost my train of thought there. I'm going to answer some questions, I guess. Let's see. Pika's asked, hey, what concept should I try and learn to be able to contribute to code? You want to contribute to code, I'd start with Java if you haven't yet. Yep, and Super Jerry's on it. I should add you as a mod, or a moderator to the YouTube Super Jerry. I'm referring to intelligent concept, not the language. Oh, okay. Siraj Ravikant's got some good stuff. I actually have a playlist of some stuff. I can put something together for you, Pikas, if you keep reminding me. Just keep bugging me on Discord. Would it be beneficial or harmful to spawn bots in a special environment, like on top of layers, wood, stone, iron, etc.? Harmful? Maybe. I'm wondering, I've dabbled with somehow trying to standardize the spawning environment instead of just randomize it. But also at the same time, I've dabbled with going the opposite direction and making it so they have longer life and stuff. So interesting stuff to think about. When I start, I'm going to do a whole video on Nido v2 and like possibly v3, the stuff I was talking about before. But with that, I'm trying to make it so they get rewarded more for learning, not so much just for fulfilling tasks. So see that blue box is supposed to be, it's just not rendering right. I'm fairly confident of that. Sorry for having this chat stuff on there right now. I need that so I can get my mouse back so I can scroll. I guess I need to install Discord later. Yeah, I thought you were on Discord, but clicked the wrong button, stream went away, fix that. I'm looking at the code. There's so many things I've never tinkered with before. Yeah, it's growing very quickly. So let's see, I'm going to go into another problem. This is the one Super Jerry's on right now. Function F3 and G? Is it? There we go. So one of the problems we are having right now is you can see that this is what's called a chunk, and it only renders so many chunks away from me, and it actually, I think it only renders entities. So it renders blocks, let's just say, I don't know how many chunks that is there. I don't know, 10 chunks in the distance, or maybe it's 10 total, so 5 chunks radius, 10 chunks diameter. And it only renders entities and calculates what they contemplate within such distance of a player. And so if an entity were to wander off in that direction, so to say, too far, its brain just stops rendering. It just stops contemplating stuff altogether. And worse yet, our spawn tool, Rick, wherever he is, he just stops firing off and spawning these guys. You can see when I move from one chunk to another how it does that. So he just stops spawning stuff if, like, I'm in observe mode and I wander too far off. So as you can see, that's a problem there. So we got to fix that. And Super Jerry's on it. Last night I think you're making some pretty good progress. Maybe it was this morning. And yeah, it definitely was this morning. And so yeah, and it's when we go multiplayer and have multiple people spawn, you know, we want these things to continue to run even if there isn't a player sitting there right on them. So that's one of the big things that we got to fix. Yeah, we do need to do a lot of cleanup. Pika, what's your weapon of choice coding-wise? Curious. Language. What language are you fluent in? Let's see. One thing I suggest is add more comments. Ah, yeah, that probably would be good. We do shoot from the hip a bit. Trying to think if there's anything else. So, Dad, do you get the basic understanding of how the neural nets kind of work? Stuff like that?
Understanding a little bit about it.
So, yeah. So basically, it's some simple. Think of it. I mean, you're an electrician, so think of it like an AND gate of sorts. You know, if the yaw of the head is, the yaw of the head, we basically split into an almost a 0 to 1 type thing. You know, so you got 360, and if the yaw of the head is at its max, I guess 300 yaw can only go so far. You know, I think it's actually 180. So if it's at its way to the left, then it's, at -1. I said Boolean like 0, 1. It's actually -1 to 1 for the purposes of our calculus. But then, so it's at -1, and then the middle would be at 0, and then if it's as far right as it can go, it'd be that. So that input's then fed in to, I'm guessing that's going to the predict output, actually. And along with, looks like the focus distance. So, let's just say it's something else. Let's just say that it sees something it likes. Then that becomes a positive, thing. Right. And so then we fire that neuron. That's
sort of like fuzzy logic.
Yeah. And so what I did is I actually grouped these outputs. So if it's the highest scoring one in its group, then it'll fire that off. So like I said, I don't want them to craft at the same time they're trying to equip something. And so it uses that to decide which neuron to do. As far as like stuff like swim or like walk left and right, I just use the raw value of it. I don't try and place it to be the highest, though I am considering trying to make it use only one of those at a time. I probably will. And so we have this thing called the focus area, and so basically that's like a visual input of sorts. So if it can see log 2 at 0, 0, 0, so basically the block that is right in front of its face, if it's face to face with a log, then that will fire off, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And so, with that said, I'm spacing out here. Hardcore. Pika, use C#. All right, cool. Yeah, that's good for Unity. I learned Unity earlier this year, the Unity engine for gaming for Chaos Trainer, and I had to learn C#, so that was cool. So usually there's also middle neurons that act as like collectors for this as well. But this guy's a generation 35 with no middle neurons. That's actually a little odd. There's a middle neuron. Man, I had another point I wanted to make, but I'm totally spacing on it. Oh well. Super Jerry found out. You may have found out why it's not working. The chunks. That's good. I totally forgot to make Rick load chunks. I'll do it. Pika's, you gotta leave. Take care. Today's not gonna be a really long stream, so I don't want to. My dad's got some stuff we want to work on, and we're hungry. But yeah, sometimes I go for hours, and it turns out people like to watch me code. That's an interesting thing. Also, it's kind of funny because then the guys that are coders will call me out like on mistakes I'm making, like as I make them. Yeah. So also, I guess if you're I was going to tell you about NEAT-O. So there's what we use is called NEAT, which is Neural Evolution of Augmented Topologies, because we don't have. It's unsupervised learning, meaning that we don't have the exact right and wrong decisions. Like if you ever watch Silicon Valley, you ever watch that show? Okay. So let's say you got 1,000 pictures of cats, and you got 1,000 pictures of dogs, and you got 1,000 pictures of random whatever. If the neural net says a dog is a cat, it's a simple reward punishment thing. But if you got like a self-driving car and it can make a mistake that'll cause it to die and crash in 10 seconds, these things are processing. Their brain fires off 20 times a second. So it's a little bit difficult to determine if they're in the right or in the wrong there. And so it's unsupervised. So they're learning from fitness functions, but we don't have like a exact data set of what the right decision is to do and what the wrong decision is to do. So with that said, we use NEAT-O. So normally you create a layered neural network with all your inputs and all your outputs. And then you go at it, but with NEAT, we actually mutate there's no set layers. So when you're looking at these guys, these are just Gen 2s, so they're not going to have a lot of neurons. But when you look at these guys, we actually add in that middle layer as we go, and mutate that and adjust. And we can't back propagate, which is like, okay, like this one was wrong on cats. We can kind of calculate which neuron, it was. We can kind of back propagate, and we can kind of like, okay, we should have adjusted. We should drop this weight down so this, instead of having a positive effect on this, because I guess this is like, if this is a negative, this is like a multiplier, right? So if this health is 1 and this is at -1, then the value that it pushes to the attack output is -1, But if this was green and positive, then it would just take this, so that'd be 0.4 times 1, we'll say, and it's that. Or it could be 0.4 times 0.5, So it's that those weights fluctuate and determine the probability of the output flying off. So this mutates over time is how neural evolution of augmented topology works. Now, with that said, they have a fixed number of inputs and outputs, typically. So like there's a thing called Mario, which is a game where people learn to play Mario. So you've got the exact buttons on the controller, okay, and you've got, basically where they do a simplification of what Mario can see on the screen, and it says and the only goal of the game is to travel that way as much as you can. So it's a pretty simple. You don't really have a right and wrong, so it's unsupervised still, but it's very simple that the inputs don't change, the outputs don't change. You got a grid on the screen, that's it. Well, we did that, and if you put in every single item and creature in Minecraft, I think it's like 256 items or so, and 200 and then you've got like, let's just say they can see 3 by 3 by 3 just around them there. That is 3 by 3 by 3 to the 256 power of just the blocks you've got. That's a lot. Yeah. And most of these blocks they're not going to encounter until the very end of the game. Like Diamond, that's something that you don't see right away. So we created what I call NEAT-O, NEAT Observable. They have a very specific. They only can add neurons for what they've observed. So the only blocks that they've encountered there. So we have this kind of fluctuating set of inputs and outputs. So like if they see, and they can't like right away craft stuff. They have to have acquired the materials, and then we basically say, okay, now you've got the materials to craft this. Now you can make a neuron for that. Now you can equip it. So that's NEAT Observable V1 is what I call it. So yeah, let's see. Still losing tickets. I think my dad looks like he's about to fall asleep here, guys.
No.
All right. So that's like one of the things I thought I could do a white paper on. And then for V2, I've got kind of a fancier thing is we want to make them learn in game. So right now they start off with 10 seconds worth of life, and they get 60 seconds if they move, and they get bonuses if they like craft stuff and do other stuff that can extend their life. But their brains are actually totally static while they're in game, so they don't learn anything. And what I am venturing to do is to give them some neuroplasticity. And so instead of just having a single neural network, I'm going to put this on observe so you guys can see this. So you guys at least aren't just watching me stare at a screen here. So what I would like to do is I'm going to generate a neural network that can create neurons on a secondary neural network. So let's just call it, you guys can't see this, but I've got a sketch here. Let's just go with those two for now. You've got a manager neural net and a worker neural net. And so this, the bigger one, that one is like the neurons that you see firing that take into account like what they see around them and everything like that. The manager is a bit more meta, where it takes in, so say an output fires off and they get rewarded. This manager takes those two things as input and then decides if it wants to add more neurons to the neural net or not. So they'll actually be able to create neurons that like make decisions in real time. And so the best one of these manager ones, it gets rewarded basically. So we're no longer programming these guys to play Minecraft, we're programming these guys to learn to play Minecraft. It sounds crazy, but
no,
it's
what's artificial intelligence about?
Yeah. The neuroplasticity would be is going to be a powerful thing. So it takes a step back, but it should increase the rate at which these things learn over time. Because like you can see here, we've got generation 4, and he's got, luckily this guy's got a target input, but he actually doesn't even have a single neuron for deciding, because it's totally random. He doesn't have a single neuron for deciding if he can see something or not. You know, it's like that should be added probably, but you know, because it's random, it doesn't happen that often. But with this, we'll train something that is smart at adding neurons, ideally, which is frightening too. So Super Jerry says it may be working. Yes, that would be wonderful. That's good. That's cool. We got 3 people watching right now. I'm guessing our third is TNT. You were talking earlier. We had somebody else on here too. We had handful of people. So, taking requests. Is there anything anybody wants me to talk about right now or go into in specifics? God, that box is driving me nuts. It's a rendering issue. I'm fairly confident of it. Like if I were to switch out of this mode, it'll follow. See, it follows the guy pretty well until he dies. It's just, these guys are dying too quick. See, that looks accurate from a distance. It just doesn't work when I'm in there for some reason, which tells us something. How often, let's see, Super Jerry, how often have you set the ChaosNet server on fire? I've been doing pretty good about it. I broke it for a little bit yesterday, but that was like, I think a total of 2 minutes of downtime. Like this training session's been going on for hours. I think actually this may have, I'm not sure I even restarted it today. It might have just been running since last night, which is good. So our stability and uptime is becoming much better. Yeah, that's good. But if I do figure out a way to make them go in real time, you know, live a lot longer, I'm going to have to rip the thing apart and put it back together again. So we'll have to play that as it goes. Mechanist says, did you mess with the translation? I did not actually. No, I did not. As you can see, when I switch out of observing the mode and the bot still thinks it's being observed, it continues to draw the box in the right spot though. So I'm inclined to say it has something to do with the position of the camera. I mean, maybe it's because I'm in F5 mode, like, but we can't see the box. Actually, no, it definitely doesn't then. but it has something to do with the player. Maybe we need to use the entity as like the base for where to draw it. I'm not quite sure. Are you planning on programming them to work together or let them decide? I want to program them to communicate. They are aware of each other's presence if they have the right neurons, which a lot of them don't, because they can observe each other and then they can detect them in the boxes. But to collaborate, I would love to reward that and see some collaboration. That when they start behaving like a tribe, or even a pack of wolves, then I will be ecstatic. But we aren't quite there yet. Dad, you got any questions? No?
Nope. I'm just watching.
Gotcha.
I should learn the game of Minecraft a little first, I guess.
I had to do the same explanation for Mom, but
Not a gamer.
well, it's relatively simple. Let's see. So this is my character right here, but I'm in like a god mode. So I could switch out of god mode, but I would probably die in about 10 seconds. But the idea, basically you spawn up in this world that's, oh, we actually have a 400 error. So I put in an auto repair feature that normally this would have knocked the game offline. But if the auto repair feature works, we won't see another one of those for a couple minutes. So normally you've got resources around here like this tree. So one of the first things you do, and I really don't want to do this in the middle of the night, so baddies spawn up at night, but during the day you're good. So anywhere that's dark in the game. Let's see if I get killed right away, guys. And watch how crap Matt is at Minecraft. So normally you spawn up. I'm going to go to first person mode because it's really tripping me out there. And what you do is you try and dig stuff. I'm still in God mode. Oh, that's my bad. Game mode S. There we go. Now I'm in survival mode. So you can see I barely have any health. For some reason armor is rendering funny. And so what you do is you got to go up and you got to dig stuff like this tree. And this is what we're trying to get them to do. And they've done this. They've actually crafted this stuff. I just made it a little bit more difficult for them recently because I want to see the behavior more sophisticated. But so right there I collected a couple trees, and then what you do from there is you want to go and craft stuff. So you actually, I go here and it says, oh, I can craft, the only thing I can craft right now is planks. So I'll craft planks, which is typically what you do. Oh, for God's sakes. So there I just crafted some planks. And now I can build other stuff like a crafting table or a stick or a button or this thing here. So I died. I was shot by a skeleton.
So you basically automate the manual process.
You build like a little fort and you discover, that you can dig down.
But a normal person playing the game would do it all manually by themselves. You're automating the little creatures to do it themselves.
Correct. I don't want them to just beat the game. Mm-hmm. What I would love to see, and this is like my ideal thing, is for them to build a little society of some type. And we've seen this in other AI experiments that are similar, where they end up with swarm-like behavior. Mm-hmm. Like they follow each other, like the ducks in a flying V, you know. And they use that to run into opponents repeatedly until they kill them and stuff like that. And they learn not to kill their own tribe. And I would love to see that. But the beauty of that, like with those games, you can't edit your environment at all. This place, the environment is completely plastic, completely moldable, I guess. You can build forts and all sorts of other stuff. So like here, they could actually build a castle of some type. I don't figure I'll see like a beautiful Sistine Chapel, like European castle type thing for a while. But what I would be impressed is if they created a home base with some type of wall barrier structure. They could, keep others out and stuff like that's one of the basis parts of the game. You want to build a little house and then you put lighting in it. You have to, like, if a block is not lit, it could be a spawn point for a baddie that kills you. So when they start crafting torches and placing them around to defend themselves, that's going to be a big win for us, And so ideally they'll have a home block. But by that point, their neural nets will be so sophisticated that that visualizer tool will be crap, you know.
And do you think you have enough computer power to run the neural nets?
Now, that is the beautiful question, because pretty much everybody that I've been talking to are running this and simulating it. So we can run right now, without problem, 50, probably 100, but I've been keeping it at 50 neural nets at once. When I add in this more complex stuff, it's going to be tougher. When they have thousands of neurons instead of dozens, it's going to get tougher. But we are working on ways to do that. We're working on a way where we can create a multiplayer server, and each person can connect to it, like, and run the neural nets on their machine, and they still all exist in one world.
So like parallel computing.
It's very much parallel stuff. So, yes, and some of the stuff I can add to GPUs. I've looked into it, but that's why I crowdsource the help. That's why I have people to train and run this stuff. So we actually just put a compiled version of this, which needs to be updated, onto a mod network where people can just download it, and they don't need to know anything about code or anything. You know, right now people, they message me and say I want to log in. I give them a login, and then it starts going. And all the brains are stored on Amazon.com and we call ChaosNet. And so that they just load up a brain and just start training it. So I personally do not have enough to get there. But if it keeps growing like it's been growing.
So if Amazon ever shuts down, I know it's probably you.
It just stores brains. It's actually what runs on the computer is much more interesting. Let's see, I've got some questions here. Let's see, this is interesting. The entities died, but the mod thinks they're still alive. Wow, that happened to that. Yeah, what happened to that hunger bar? I don't know. Yeah, the hunger bar is all jacked up on my computer. It's not an armor bar. Will penalizing mining be different in deserts since there's no dirt? I specifically haven't put a spawn point in the desert because of that TNT outburst. I put them above dirt, so we would have to change that. TNT outburst writes most of our fitness functions, so like there's so many objects in the game. He actually went through, I only had like enough to get him to like almost where you saw me, like a little bit beyond where you saw me get to in a couple minutes of human life. He went to like what it would take me a half an hour to an hour to do in this game, like as a human. Like, so it's a couple dozen fitness rules and contributes and keeps them maintained, which is very nice. So let's see. If that happens, we can write a paper on it. We were going to be writing so many papers, and in reality, we'll be doing so many more videos, but we will at some point put papers in there. Also, I guess I told you guys I want to do a long run where I stop messing with code, and I figured out that I'm going to, that week, try and do a really professional version of a video that we can now use as our stepping stone to get into this. Maybe even come up with a proper intro and stuff, but you can see here, this is my outline, the sticky notes on the wall. You guys can't see it, but my dad can. All right, running the neural networks can be optimized so that we should be able to run giant networks. Yes, I agree. I'm curious with the Neato version 2, I'm going to store a ton of metadata, like how often these things fire off, how often they switch from, values from positive to negative, how often they're rewarded, how often they're punished. Like, so there's a ton of meta neuron data, at least on the output neurons we're going to be storing, and the middle neurons, and I guess on the input. So we'll be able. I mean, that could affect it. The interesting thing is, I guess we could run the meta neural network in a separate thread, so that could be GPU optimized, which would be cool. I don't know. That'll be interesting. We'll see. I mean, yeah, we'll see in the future how this goes. So guys, I think I'm going to do just a couple more minutes, maybe 5 more minutes here, unless anybody's, you guys go ahead and throw out any questions you got. We'll get off of me sitting here just dead. Sorry about that. We'll see if we can get anything, if we can see anything else here. Observe, and F5. There we go. That box looks right. Now that guy, so they also have biology where that mutates over time. So see the size of that box there that he's got? that means his area of focus has increased and mutated as we've gone. So he starts with an area of focus of, let's just say, 1 box by 1 box by 1 box, whatever's right in front of their face, and it expands as time goes on, like if they live long enough. So this guy's a generation 40. You can see that right there in his name. He's a generation 40, so he's managed to get a pretty wide area of focus. Let's see if I can grab his neural net. So this is I don't think this is him. You can see it's got a little bit more interesting, but he still barely has any look neurons right now. So I got to dig into that. But that's where Nito 2 comes into place, because the neural net, the manager neural net, will ideally, one that does well will know how many. We've been trained to know how many of these things to put in there, so that's cool. Question: where do you kill organisms that are too old, Super Jerry? I will get you that line of code quickly. You guys don't want to see that. Let me just put this back in the real world. So, let's see. I think it's actually in the entity organism itself. And I'm pretty sure it's on the on update. Here we go. I found it, and I will post it for you. Nope. Yep. There we go. So that's where I kill them technically, or and more accurate, they age out and die themselves. You can see there it says set dead on line 316, but then there's another tick that picks up if they've been dead. You know, if they're not been dead, but if they're dead, and it should report their score to the server. That's somewhere else. That makes sense. It's barely English. Interesting. So this is one of the other people running the simulation here. I might as well, if I'm looking at it, I might as well put it on the screen. So it says we've got lines, and yes, you definitely have lines. So evidently bots were digging in a very straight line there. And I guess we are on the side of the sand, so if you guys wanted to, one of the problems is like they destroy the landscape, so then future generations just can't traverse it. So it becomes a pain. Like they can, some of the better ones can, but a lot of them don't even get a chance to evolve there. I guess I should mention I split these things into species. So like each of these, there's a list of species. Let's see, J, nope. So like, and each of these species gets to generate 100 organisms each turn. And the organisms are what you see running around the screen there. And in the top, I think I've got it set so the top 10% gets stored for the next generation, and then their brains are based off that top 10%. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you're seeing. So there's a lot more stats and stuff in there, but and then if a species doesn't improve in so long, we just kill off the species and start another one. So it's a very specific way of running species. You know, it's not really how it works in real life, but it's a very guided way. Yes, yeah. Let's see. All right, guys, I'm going to start wrapping up here. What do we got for questions? Oh, we got a bunch that didn't scroll. Somewhere the mod keeps organisms loaded when the entities are dead. We can dig into that later on. Will the bots eventually breed instead of despawning and respawning a certain amount of time? Yes, I was thinking about making that a bigger priority. We also can crossbreed species. It sounds weird that way, but which is a way of them sharing the neurons they already have with other species, which I think is actually probably a higher priority. So let's make that a next week thing, that we will try and make the breeding a thing. And we can we usually set the percentage of that happening pretty low to crossbreed species, and then but you can breed bots within a species. It adds more neurons and complexity, but it's good. But eventually, I want to make it so they can organically. Sounds weird. And we had a really awkward conversation the other day about this, but where they can actually walk up to another one and interact with it, and basically they said I'm breeding, and then a child just spawns next to it that has a collaboration of the brain. So right now they're from a pool, where they're just like a list of them, and we just say, okay, we're taking half of this one, half of that one. And this way they would actually, it wouldn't be, yeah, you're smiling. It wouldn't be as fun as it sounds. The bot would just show up. It's stork delivery, guys, but we just basically say, yes, we're having a baby. But I would also have to factor in, I'd like to factor in hunger, because there's a hunger thing in the play. Like the player, if they get too hungry, then their health doesn't regenerate and stuff like that. So they'd have to have enough energy to do that. So they have to collect some amount of energy. It wouldn't just walk up and be like, since having a child requires a lot of energy. So yes, with that said, guys, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for joining, and I believe I'm going to be done for now. We're going to get some lunch. So check us out on Patreon.com/Schematical. Dad, and I think I've told you, Patreon's a way that people can contribute to this, and very much appreciate those of you guys contributing. And I do have some ideas for some fun features for you guys and stuff you guys can get, or badges. So I'm working on that. I am actually getting organized as a proper person that is not just doing this as a complete amateur. I'm getting better at this. So thank you guys. Follow us. Yeah, like, share, subscribe, all the usual stuff. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Nope, that's not the right